The Reverend Kathy Schmitz is an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister. Over the past 25 years, she has served congregations in Massachusetts, Texas, Miami, and Orlando as both settled and an interim parish minister. Most recently, she served as the senior minister of First Unitarian Church of Orlando for over 8 years. Since stepping down 7 years ago, she has served a number of congregations as a guest speaker, sabbatical minister, and a consultant. She is currently serving as the president of the League of Women's Voters in Orange County. Kathy describes herself as an eco-humanist, strongly influenced by Buddhist practice and teaching.
Good morning. It is lovely to be with you again. As we center ourselves for worship, I offer you this thought from my colleague, Reverend Marlon Lavenhar. He writes, "We have all heard some person say something like, 'Don't tell me I'm related to monkeys.' The fact of the matter is that now that we've discovered DNA and its code, we know that we are not only related to monkeys, we are related to zucchini. So let's get over it. May our time together open us to all the new and amazing discoveries that await our attention. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn, "'Tis a Gift to be Simple."
Tis to turn will be a delight, till by turning we come round right. Sorry about that.
Comes from Mark McMenemy, who is a professor of geology and a paleontologist, and he is currently at Mount Holyoke College. It's called The Lucky Little Seaweed. Once, a very long time ago, 430 million years ago to be more precise, there lived a sad little seaweed on the shore near a shallow sea. The little seaweed loved its warm, well-lit aquatic home, but the neighborhood was becoming more dangerous with each passing week. Big, fast-growing seaweeds were crowding out the area and shading the area where the smaller, less aggressive forms lived. Ferocious animals who swam or crawled in the ocean had developed a taste for seaweed salad. These animals were beginning to become more numerous every day. They were even beginning to threaten the seaweeds that lived right by the shore in the saltiest water, a zone that used to be safe. The sad little seaweed was feeling the pinch of competition. One dreary morning, in the shade of a newly grown patch of aggressive seaweed, the little seaweed met an aquatic fungus. "Excuse me," said the fungus, "but I'm about to infect and eat you." Why would you want to do that? Asked the little seaweed. Well, said the fungus, it's getting harder and harder to make a living on this part of the seafloor. I normally prefer to eat dead organic matter like old decaying parts of seaweed, but the voracious animals have been devouring my favorite foods before I get my share with their fishy little fins and their crabby little claws. Those animals can move faster than I can spread my little fungal fingers. You know, offered the little seaweed, I have a similar problem. Beneath these big seaweeds, I can't find enough light to grow. They're shading me out, leaving me weak. My future looks bleak. You might as well infect me and get it over with. The fungus was happy to oblige. Using what scientists call hyphae, little thread-like tubes, the fungus began to slurp away at the fluids in the seaweed molecule by molecule. And then, just then, there was an earthquake. A portion of the sea floor heaved up, becoming land, and the salt water drained away. The big seaweeds went tumbling back into the ocean, carried along with the ebbing water. But up on this new piece of land, the little seaweed, anchored as it was to the fungus, was left ashore. Now what? Said the fungus in desperation. No problem for me, said the fungus. My hyphae can grow down into the mud just as easily as they can reach into you. I can grow my fungal fingers down as I need to reach the water. And I just suck it up. See, I'm in no danger of drying out. But you are. So I suppose I should get as much out of you as I can before you dry to a crisp. The fungus continued slurping the fluids out of the little seaweed molecule by molecule, but in the bright sun, the little seaweed was beginning to taste different. The fungus discovered that the fluids it was feasting on were becoming sweeter and sweeter. Say, you are a sweet little seaweed. I would like to taste your sweetness forever. It seems a shame to kill you. That's because I'm getting enough sunlight. That's why I'm sweet. When I get enough sunlight, I create lots of sugar with photosynthesis. That is a most admirable talent, said the fungus. Little seaweed, I have a proposal for you. I'm listening, said the seaweed. The fungus continued with excitement. You know, my hyphae can provide nutrition as well as take it away. That's my special talent, controlling the flow of water and such, and nutrients. The interesting thing is, I can just as easily send you fluids as I can slurp them out of you. The little seaweed felt a glimmer of hope in its green gelatinous skin. Tell me more, said the little seaweed. If I provide you with water and nutrients, can you guarantee me a continuous supply of sugar? Oh, yes. In this bright sunlight, I can provide much more sugar than I could ever use myself. I'm afraid of drying out, but you seem to have solved that. Well, I think we have a deal, said the fungus. And thus began the most fruitful collaboration of all time, the coming together of a seaweed and a fungus to form an entirely new type of life on Earth. Land plants. So now every time you admire a great oak tree or run across a lovely green lawn or munch on a salad, remember the little seaweed and this tale of teamwork at the ocean's edge.
As we move deeper into our service, let us turn inward to consider transitions, the joys, sorrows, and concerns we all experience in our life's journey. There are 3 bowls of stones, different colors, representing the gratitude of joy, the grief of sorrow, and the hope of concern. After those present have placed the stones in the water, our ushers will place stones from each of the bowls into the water on behalf of those not physically present and those who have chosen not to or who are unable to come forward. And those online are invited to type into the chat what is in your heart. When all the stones have been mingled in the water and all have shared, we will take a moment for silent meditation or prayer. And at the sound of the bells will bring us back into community. We will sing our response, voice still and small. Ushers, you may now come forward, please. Joys, sorrows, and concerns, and those of others.
Still and small, deep inside. quenching my tears through all the years, singing.
Will we now receive our offering? For those of you that are visiting with us for the first time, please do not feel obligated to give. You being here is our gift to you. This is the time in our service when those who wish to make some monetary contribution to our congregation's vision and mission to support our community and its outreach. I invite the ushers to come forward.
I'd like to begin with a reading from Michael Dowd and his book, Thank God for Evolution. In his book, Evolutionary Evangelist, Michael Dowd writes about the role of cooperation in evolution. He summarizes it this way: cooperative synergy and competitive strife are the yin and yang of biological evolution. Dowd takes issue with our tendency to simplify evolution as simply the survival of the fittest. He quotes system scientist Peter Corning, who writes, "Ecological communities are not simply gladiator fields dominated by deadly competition. They are networks of independent self-interests that require mutual adjustment and accommodation. The necessity for competition is only one half of a duality. The other half includes many opportunities for mutually beneficial cooperation." That's the end of the quote from Peter Corning. Dowd explains, while few biologists today would deny that competition and strife play vital roles in evolutionary emergence, some conclude that cooperative processes are equally or even more important. From this perspective, evolution is driven by the survival of those who fit best into the web of ecological relationships. As was the situation for our lucky little seaweed and the fungus in our story this morning, Dowd believes that, quote, symbiosis, beneficial partnerships shape the ecologies of our world. We are reminded that competition and strife may indeed create the circumstances that make cooperation advisable. Still, whatever the reason, there are opportunities for cooperation. This was and is true in our evolutionary history and in our human history. Dowd points out, for our remote human ancestors, cooperation existed only in small family groups. Cooperative organizations expanded to produce multi-family bands, then tribes, then agricultural villages, cities, empires, and then nation states. And now some forms of economic and social cooperation span the globe. And now I invite you to a brief meditation titled Out of the Stars, which comes from the late UU minister Robert Weston. Out of the stars in their flight, out of the dust of eternity, here we have come. Dust and starlight mingling through time and space. Out of the stars have we come. Up from time, out of the stars have we come. Time out of time, before time in the vastness of space, Earth spun to orbit the sun. Earth with the thunder of mountains newborn, the boiling of seas. Earth warmed by the sun, lit by sunlight. This is our home. Out of the stars have we come. Mystery, hidden in mystery, back through all time. Mystery rising from rocks in the storm and the sea. Out of the stars, rising from rocks and the sea. Kindled by sunlight, on earth arose life. Ponder this thing in your heart. Ponder with awe. Out of the sea to the land, out of the shallows came ferns. Out of the sea to the land, from darkness to light, rising to walk and to fly. Out of the sea trembled life. Ponder this thing in your heart. Life up from the sea, eyes to behold, throats to sing, mates to love. Life from the sea, warmed by the sun, washed by the rain. Life from within, giving birth, rose to love. This is the wonder of time. This is the marvel of space. Out of the stars swung the earth. Life upon earth rose to love. This is the marvel of life. Rising to see and to know. Out of your heart cry wonder. Sing that we live. May we continue to find awe in this world with which we have been gifted. So, the question before us this morning is, are we individually and collectively as smart as seaweed? Or for that matter, fungus? When we are thrown up on new shores, what do we do? When the very foundations of our world shift and we are rocked to the core, what is it that we do? I would like to think that we would cope at least as well as the little seaweed did when the earth's upheaval left it high and dry. But I have learned long ago that there's a difference between what I would like to think and reality. Perhaps this is the basis of evolution, that it's not guaranteed. Things do not always go as I or you or we think they should. For every little seaweed that merged with a fungus and went on to do great things, there were countless others that withered away on barren rocks. We like the success stories. Those are the ones that we tell. The beginning of life on land. How exciting. But it's not a simple story. It was not inevitable. It was a story with many elements. It had adversity. It had a cataclysmic event. There was luck involved, and there was cooperation. Cooperation. In this case, evolution was driven by the survival of those who fit best into the ecological web of relationships. The survival of those who fit best. The survival of those who, recognizing the reality around them, are able to play nice in a new sandbox, even if it means playing with those they once considered an enemy. Ow. I would like to think that we could cope at least as well as the little seaweed when the earth's upheaval left it high and dry. But I wonder, are we willing to change, to adapt, to take stock of our new environment, surroundings, and evolve? For me, this raises the question of interdependence, one of our newly articulated Unitarian Universalist values. This may be the easiest one of our new values for many of us to remember, since many of us were fond of the seventh principle in our previous articulation of who we are. You'll recall the seventh principle called out our respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Now, here on the screen is the representation of our 6 new values surrounded by love. Surrounding love. So today, I should mention that we are going to, when I was with you in January, we talked about transformation. So today we're going to talk about interdependence. And for our purposes, it is described this way. Can I have the next slide, please? We honor the interdependent web of all existence. With reverence for the great web of life and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect the earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. An interdependent web, all existence, this is what we honor. We're talking about all of existence here, the parts we understand and the parts we don't understand. All of existence, a web, an interdependent web. The various parts of the web depend on one another and support one another. Touch one part and the ripples of the actions have effects beyond the obvious, beyond the immediate. All of existence since that moment, currently estimated to be 14 billion years ago, when our universe began from a pinprick and began to expand. All of existence has been and is interdependent, evolving together. And so here's the thing. We're part of it. Really part of it. We're not just asked to honor it. We're asked to recognize our part in it. We are part of the unfolding universe, just like the seaweed and the fungus. We are in relationship with each other and with the larger web. We depend on parts of the web and they depend on us. We support parts of the web and parts of the web support us. Now, of course, you're going to say, this is obvious. Intellectually, most of us know that. But emotionally, spiritually, experientially, some of us sometimes forget, and we live as if it was otherwise. We act as if the universe was a stage built for our entertainment, a sandbox crafted for our pleasure, something we can and should control, something we are on or in rather than something we are part of. Sometimes we do real harm. But we are a part of it, and as the universe evolves, so too do we. It can be no other way. If we are as clever as a seaweed and a fungus, we will keep ourselves apprised of the situation around us. We will reach out and experience the rest of the web, and when needed, we will evolve. And sometimes this means that we will need to learn to cooperate in new ways. I like the word cooperate, to operate together, closely related to another useful word, collaborate, to labor together. We're not talking here simply about taking another into account. We're not talking about tolerating others or even acceptance. We're talking about truly and deeply appreciating what others bring to our relationships, our interdependent relationships. I'm reminded of the charter school my daughters attended in middle school. It was based on systems thinking. Everything they did looked at interconnections. They called it interdisciplinary. And this type of learning, if you study bridges, you study the science and math of bridges, and bridge building. You study the geography of the land and the bridge's effect on people and animals. You read the literature and poetry about bridges. You look at bridges through the eyes of an artist. A bridge does not exist in isolation. To say one understands bridges, there's so much more we need to experience. It's all connected. Now, I was perhaps attracted to this school for my daughter because of my own experiences. I was, in my first career, a software engineer. This tells you that I did something with the programs that make computers run. I was a specific type of software engineer. I was a systems engineer. I looked at computers as a whole system. Now, for those of you who know about such things, I wrote operating systems. For those of you who don't, if you push the button on your computer and it started, my stuff worked. Later in my career, I worked on device drivers. This means I helped the computer talk to a printer or scanner or device or whatever. It was my job to help the computer and the device, say the printer, cooperate so that your document would go from the screen onto the piece of paper. Cooperation. After I became a minister, someone asked me, "How do you like developing people instead of software?" And I knew that I had met a person who understood both my old world and my new world. I really like developing people instead of software. I love collaboration. I love encouraging people to cooperate. It's just the way I naturally look at the world. It's not the only way. I know this. We need our specialists too. I'm grateful for them. But me, I naturally want to look at the big picture and all the opportunities for cooperation and collaboration. I remember once being new in a congregation, and I was in a meeting and I asked a question. Interestingly, I can no longer remember what that question is, but I do remember the answer. Someone told me that there, in that particular congregation, there were different groups. For example, there were people who were the social justice people, and there were the religious education people, and there were the art and music people, and there were the environmental people. What was implied in their answer was that with all these different interests in that congregation, I should not expect the congregation ever to collaborate on any big project. Fascinating. Interestingly, I think most congregations have people interested in all those things. I mean, I am pretty sure from what I know of this congregation that you have some social justice people and some people who enjoy adult programs, some art and music people, some environmental people too. But if I assigned one interest to each corner of the room and asked you to go to the one corner that you belonged in, you know, social justice people here, environmental people here, art and music there, adult programs there, would that work for you? Could you each go to one corner? I suspect many of you could not. I was and am fascinated by the idea of competing clans within our congregations. Here's the thing, I don't buy it. I don't think we divide ourselves up that way. I've seen the way that social justice and environmental concerns overlap. Not just the people, but the recognition that environmental justice most heavily impacts traditionally marginalized communities. And we hear songs of justice, right? And our programs teach us to understand more deeply the concerns in our world. All of our clans overlap. So I think back to my arrival in that congregation, and I wonder what it is I asked that caused someone to tell me I shouldn't expect all the parts of the congregation to work together. And I wonder in part because I think it's a frequent tragedy in our human relations, that we underestimate the potential of what we can do together. In our neighborhoods, in our families, in our workplaces, our clubs, our congregations, missed opportunities abound. I suspect among us we could come up with a long list. Missed opportunities to connect, to cooperate, to collaborate. Missed opportunities to become something more together than any of us could be alone. Of course, we'll each personally be drawn to different areas, Our attention will at times be drawn to this project or that project, but always there's a larger vision of the world that we dream about. Too often we work at cross purposes or even worse against each other, when with a little creativity, a little cooperation, we could support each other. Interdependence has always been part of our world, but feels like the global news reminds us that more and more. We know that of the relationship that conveniences of fossil fuel are leading to asthma in children and other vulnerable populations. We know that the US war in Iran is impacting not just oil that we hear about, but food supplies that depend on the Straits of Hormuz. We know that seemingly different news stories are related in that immigrants are being vilified as an excuse to suppress voting rights for everyone. We touch one thing, and too often we cause unintended consequences, sometimes intended. Here in this congregation, I know that the areas of congregational life overlap, sometimes intentionally, sometimes just as a natural way of how things are. But we can always look for more ways that we can weave our different interests and strengths into new and wonderful things that we have not yet imagined. Collaboration, cooperation, evolution, more than any of us can be. One of the fabulous things about such joint adventures is the wonder and mystery that comes from not knowing exactly how it will turn out. Evolution is like that. We can't know, we don't know. And that's true in all areas of our lives. Think for a moment, are there any areas where you are cut off from some life-giving opportunities, or where you could look for increased cooperation and collaboration? How can you best support those you love, those people, those causes, those communities? Where is your opportunity for a little evolution? Of course, we know that this congregation has evolved throughout its history, beginning in the 1970s with one person gathering liberal thinking residents together for informal meetings. You've embraced many opportunities to change and grow, from various places to call home, to shifting relationships with professional ministry, and even a name change. At each point, courageous people made bold decisions. They did not always know what would emerge, but so much has. They did not know when they opened those first figurative doors who would find their way inside, and they opened them anyway. And here you are. They didn't know who would be here now, but they knew they were growing our life-giving tradition. This community is constantly remaking itself, constantly changing, welcoming new people, grieving the loss of beloved friends, allowing itself to live and evolve and move into the unknown. I find myself thinking back to the wonderful tradition that so many of our congregations have, and I am pretty sure this one does, of potluck meals. You never know exactly who will show up or what they will bring, and yet it all comes together into something delicious and nutritious, a feast none of us could have planned, let alone created on our own. This is one of the fabulous things about joint adventures, the wonder and mystery of not knowing exactly how it will turn out. And I note that any given potluck, we may find seaweed by way of sushi, fungus, for those of you who like mushrooms, and lots of land plants that resulted from that partnership. Many of the things that have evolved since then, including us. Once, a very long time ago, 430 million years ago to be precise, a seaweed and a fungus met under adverse conditions and began a fruitful partnership. If we are as clever as seaweed and fungus, then we will keep ourselves apprised of the situation around us. In this congregation, yes, but in all our relationships and associations, we will reach out and experience the rest of the web. If we are as clever as seaweed and fungus, we will watch for our opportunities to collaborate and cooperate, and we will continue to evolve. May it be so. And will you sing with me, Blue Boat Home? Please rise in body or in spirit.
Away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel. Upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Diane Carlin will now read our chalice extinguishing message.
Yes, interdependence is complicated. Our egos may tell us we can do it alone, or our wisdom tells us there is a richness when we understand what we do and say strongly affects nature, family, and friends. Educating ourselves on these effects may take time, but can produce the highest good.
If you would like to receive communications or on upcoming Try UU events, please fill out a guest card, which will be available at the door after the service. On August 11th, there will be a class for those wanting to know more about Try UU. Please sign up at the table in the back of the room. I failed to mention, if we have any newcomers and you'd like to introduce yourself, please stand and an usher will bring you a microphone. Okay. We are interested to hear how you experienced this hybrid worship service and or what you took away from it. For those of you who are on Zoom, raise your hand and speak or type your comment in the chat box. For those here in the room, please raise your hand. If there is time, I will call on you. We have plenty of time. Please share your name and speak directly into the top of the microphone so we can hear you better. If you wish to be seen on the monitor and by those attending via Zoom, please stand in the front of the room. Keep your comments brief, on topic, no announcements, please. So let's have our clever and connected seaweed ask if we have any questions or comments for Dr. Kathy.
I'm Diane. I just had to add how pertinent this has been to my experience in the last week. I had milkweed, but then these little aphids and the last monarchs I had a couple years ago ate all of it and nothing came back. So we went to the Marion County Market to buy some more milkweed. And on the way there, I called Brenda, and she encouraged me to only get it if it was native. Well, the lady quickly told us what they had was native. We didn't look at it very much. It was nice, big-looking plants, and they were $10 each. We put them in the back of the truck. We went home with them, and then we noticed they had aphids. They had holes in the leaves. There were some yellow leaves. And what to do? I've researched, I went to Copilot is my AI on the computer, and it was just so good. But to get rid of the fungus, you can use a copper spray on the top of the leaves, the bottom of the leaves, but you have to put it on in the late evening. And then we forgot to put it on, so I guess it'll be tonight we'll do that. And then the monarchs are flying around looking for a place to lay their eggs. So I go out there and I shush them away because I don't want them to eat this disease that's on the plant. And I picked off all the yellow leaves with the black spots on them. There were probably 30. And then I went back an hour later, and there were another 30 yellow leaves that quickly. And so I'm really confounded. I guess maybe somebody can give me guidance. I think I should just destroy the plants and try to find some native. I will tell you this, I spent $28 and I ordered a native plant. It was this big. I've had it 6 weeks. It's grown a 1/16 of an inch. I keep trying to put it out in the sunlight 2 or 3 hours so the sun won't just sunburn it. But it's hard to remember that, even with a watch that I can set a timer on. So, Kathy, it's complicated. Thank you.
We're so glad to have you back, Reverend Kathy. So yes, you brought back memories of a book I read, almost as long as it's Diane's story, not quite. The Overstory, and about the trees, the giant trees in the Northwest. And that book really changed my life. I'll never forget it. I remembered even today, after all these years, when you mentioned fungus, it popped in my head. And how, I don't think there were seaweed involved in that, but it was the fungus and the communication and the cooperation. And it will absolutely, if you've not read The Overstory by Richard Powers? Yes, it's absolutely amazing. You'll never look at a mushroom or any kind of fungus ever again without great, great, great respect. And don't forget all the medical uses.
Thank you. Reverend Kathy, it's always wonderful to have you here and bringing these new ideas that are so important for us. And I never thought of interdependence in terms of fungus and seaweed before, so it's just truly special. But I had lunch with a couple of people from the congregation last Friday, and we were talking about different kinds of programs that we might sponsor here, and I said something about the climate urgency, and the immediate reaction was, oh, there's nothing we could do about this. This is getting so bad, and we're always in that very dark place. And I've been thinking about this all weekend, One of the really wonderful things I've done this week is I always wanted to go to Chautauqua. Does everybody know what Chautauqua is? Mm-hmm. Well, you can go to the lectures at Chautauqua for $25 a month now on YouTube. And so I've been doing that and attending all these wonderful lectures, like David Wells Wallace, great environmentalist writer, and Bill McKibben. And they've been telling the good stories about climate. And I realize that we don't hear the good stories. I mean, we hear the smoke, from Canada that somehow they're supposed to control and not let come over our border. We hear those stories. We hear the thousands of deaths because of extreme heat in Europe. But Bill McKibben is telling the stories of the fact that we make batteries now much cheaper and much differently. We don't have to rely on lithium batteries. We can do sodium batteries now, which is, much cost efficient. And he tells a story about in Europe, they're developing solar power that they call balcony solar that you can put on an apartment building balcony. He's telling the story of in California, 60%, of the energy in California is renewable now, and China is, they thought they would be the leaders in renewable energy. So these are the stories that we forget to tell, and we sometimes in this congregation forget to tell the story that years ago we wanted solar, and it was really, ask Bruce, that we could not afford solar, but today our building is 100% powered by solar. So we can do these things and we can tell the positive stories as well. And that's what you reminded me, that together we thought these things out. Thank you.
One more. Let her.
Joyce Mills. This is personal. I loved your image of the formation of everything, the rising up and just all of that energy in there, because sometimes that's how I feel when I enter a new place. But I did love that image. And before we close, I want to remind us that Bruce Andrews is in Encompass Rehab, doing much, much better. His birthday is Tuesday, as is our own Tim McCusker. So I'd like to thank them. Today. So we're grateful for both of them, and glad that Tim brings his voice to us each week.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Well, thank you again for having me. Our closing words come from the Reverend Sarah York. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and, renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown.